A very warm welcome to Automating OmniFocus with MindStudio AI, and I'm really happy to have Myke Kirkham-Jones back on Learn OmniFocus. He was a guest almost exactly 5 years ago. It was back in 2020, and I'm still benefiting to this day from what he shared and some of the creative ideas he had. So it's really great to have Myke back again today. And before I introduce our guest of honor, just want to talk a little bit about Learn OmniFocus and some of the things that have come along recently and some of the things that are coming down the pike. One transition I made around the time OmniFocus 4 launched is to do self-guided courses. So instead of doing them live, I decided it would be more effective to pre-record them and so you can go through them at your own pace. And this way I can make the courses as long as they need to be. Sometimes it's not really practical to put all the information into a 90-minute session. So that was the reasoning there. And there have been quite a few that have come out specific to OmniFocus 4, and there's definitely a lot more to come. There are OmniFocus 3 courses that are still largely relevant, but I did want to update especially some of the key topics to make sure that it's speaking directly to OmniFocus 4 and all the innovation that's taken place, not just with OmniFocus, but with the OSs and other third-party apps that I reference as well. And these courses aren't just about OmniFocus. They do tap into productivity principles. I often reference David Allen's Getting Things Done and my own holistic productivity approach and other methodologies. So it's not just about kind of learning an app. It's about learning new principles and developing habits and so forth. OmniFocus never exists in isolation. There's always going to be other apps that make up the productivity system, note-taking apps and utilities and calendars and things like that. So I make a point of bringing the relevant ones into each of the courses. And the most recent course is Taming Email with OmniFocus 4. And this is really about how to rein in email if it's taking too much of your time and attention or you're falling behind on it. This is based on many years of experience in teaching courses on email. And it goes into some basic principles, and then I illustrate the principles using 5 different email apps. And even if you're not using one of these, I think you'll find you can adapt it to whatever email client you are using. And you can go through this and other courses in a lesson. So if you just want to spend 20 minutes a day going through it, you can use the lesson tracker to track your progress. And there's also a full course video, and that's got AI generated translations in a variety of different languages. And if you're not currently a Learn OmniFocus member, if you're watching a recording of this, the first portion of all the courses is free, so you can check it out. And the next course I'll be launching is Traveling with OmniFocus 4. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm definitely an avid traveler, and I think traveling is kind of the best test of a productivity system because it's putting you in different situations and time zones and cultures and things like that. And this course is about not just the actual traveling, but a big part of it is getting ready to travel and things that you do once you get back home to get back into your routine and leverage whatever learning was available from the traveling. So look for that one coming soon. I'm going to weave in some AI to that as well, because AI can be very helpful when preparing to go on a trip. I also really emphasize having the opportunity for our members around the world to connect face-to-face. So this is where Learn OmniFocus Live comes in, and it takes several forms. First of all, office hours has been around pretty much since the beginning of Learn OmniFocus. And these are small group, maximum 10 people sessions where you can meet other OmniFocus users and get to know each other, ask questions, share challenges and successes and things like this. So these are a lot of fun. It's always a great group. And then you can come and work alongside myself and other people in our community. And people often describe this as the most productive 90 minutes of their week. It's a very, very focused environment, and it's designed to help you to learn what helps you personally focus. So there's a lot of learning here. And then there's the one workshop so far. I plan to offer more in the future. And this is basically a guided tour through your own OmniFocus setup. And there's some strategies, and you'll be making changes within OmniFocus as you go through the workshop to help you to get back on track. All right. Well, without further ado, I'm very happy to welcome back Myke Kirkham-Jones. And he brings a really wealth of experience as a portfolio and project manager, a programmer. He has an extensive work history, and he might touch on that a little bit. But he definitely has a deep and varied base of experience that has brought him where he is today. And he's joining us from Wales in the UK. And if you need a little bit of a geography lesson, this is where you'll find Wales. Saying to Myke, I was there. I think I was about 2 years old when I was last in Wales, so I'm definitely due for a return visit. And Myke is the founder of Quantum Minds. It's an AI agency dedicated to empowering businesses and individuals using AI and using some of the things like he's going to be talking about today. And Myke specializes is in what's called MindStudio. And if you've never heard of MindStudio, you'll be getting a good dose of this shortly. And he's also a certified AI MindStudio developer. Okay, well, without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Myke.
Myke Kirkham-Jones. I've been in IT since 1988. Around about then, I started off as a developer, worked my way through Java development and all that stuff, and then decided to move into project management. That was in the late 90s. So I've been doing project management for a fair number of years now, and now do portfolio management, so looking after companies' program of work plus number of different types of projects, etc. But during that time, I've always kept my fingers on the keyboard, doing different types of programming, Java, JavaScript, and things like that. I'm currently working in the educational industry, but I've sort of worked in financial areas, medical areas. I've done a sort of fair big choice of backgrounds. Back about just over a year and a half ago, I started to look at AI as a tool that we could actually start to use and think about ways of putting it into different environments, not just for where I was working, but for what I was doing, etc. And coming from a very methodical background, from a project management background, and having used OmniFocus for, I don't know, it must be about 10 years now. I also wanted to bring that with me at the same time. So what I've tried to do is think about ways of making AI work combined with OmniFocus, combined with the project management by breaking down projects for looking at risks and managing risks and things like that. And over the period, I don't know, about 3 or 4 months, I started to look at tools and came across MindStudio, I suppose, around about 14, 16 months ago, and started to play around with it and realized that it was a fairly easy tool to pick up. You didn't have to know coding behind it, although coding does help, and I'll show you in a bit where that can help. But the main thing was that it was based around prompting the AI to do certain things in certain areas. And as I got more into that, I started to realize that there was benefit beyond AI. MindStudio allows you to link out using things like Zapier and Make and connect into other tools. And it's those tools then that make this a bigger workflow and a bigger piece as far as I'm concerned, because no longer am I restricted to just asking AI to produce a document for me. I can now produce that document, send that document to somewhere else, have that processed in another application, and bring it back through the workflow. So MindStudio allows me to do that. So that what I wanted to do then is link it up to what I was doing. And as I said, I've been doing OmniFocus for a fair number of years. When I was last on, I was working with an air traffic control system. And I still do that as the basis of my OmniFocus sort of focus into managing projects. And so I look at the air traffic control and look at how I'm managing a project. So if the project comes on board, it's sat on the apron, waiting to get its instructions. And then once I've given it the instructions, it goes onto the runway. And once I've now ready for it to start, it then takes off and it's in flight. So that there's all this sort of principles of air traffic control, and I want then to get AI to then help me with the same principles and bring that into OmniFocus. So I've talked about MindStudio. I suppose the best thing to do is to start sharing my screen and introduce you to the tool. Okay, this is MindStudio. You just log on to it. It's very simple, MindStudio AI, and it'll bring you into this screen. What I'll do before I jump in is just run through the pricing plans, because this is when it first started out, the free tier was very limited, and you had limited time to use it. But over the past 6 months or so, their whole business model has changed slightly, in that when you sign on to the free tier now, you're actually getting almost everything. All the functionality and all the features are available to you. And this is certainly with some of the clients that I work with has changed things, where they used to be on a business plan. They've now come off the business plan and moved over to the free version. And on the free version, there is a cost, and that the cost is actually calling the AI. So every time you call the AI, it costs a number of tokens. You purchase those tokens. And over the past 12 months, I've used around about $20 worth of tokens. So it's reasonably inexpensive to run. Obviously, the more people you have on there, and I fired off an application in one of the company I was at. It was a plagiarism application, and we were having thousands of hits per day, and therefore the cost was mounting up slightly in that respect. But for you to use, certainly using yourself or using with a small number of people, the free plan is excellent. And I think Tim has got a link. If you use the link, I've been speaking to MindStudio today, and they've said that they give $5 as well for everyone who signs up on the free subscription. So there you go. You got $5, which will actually take a fair number of months for you to use, unless you've got some really deep pieces of prompting to do. Okay, I'll leave that now. Let's jump into MindStudio itself. So I'll jump into the actual environment. One thing to highlight here is that with the free subscription, as with all of the subscriptions, you get access to a load of agents. And these agents run on Chrome extension. So there is a Chrome extension, as you can see over here. You can get that. You can install the Chrome extension, that Chrome extension will then allow you to run all of these applications. And I mean, there's hundreds of them, and they're increasing by the day. But they have a program where anyone can actually create an extension, and if it works, and it's they MindStudio think there's a benefit to it, they actually will pay you to create that extension. So over the past certainly 3 months, this has doubled in size with the amount of programs in there. Very useful, nice to play around with and to get a feel of what MindStudio can do at the same time. We're not going to be looking at those for the rest of the time. I'm going to take you through the main concept, the main area of working with MindStudio.
Just one question, Myke, just something to touch on. So does MindStudio essentially allow you to tap into a lot of AI solutions without having to go to each one individually and figure out what it does? So it's largely a wrapper that,
It's largely a wrapper, and it's a wrapper around all of the LLMs as well. So you don't have to sign up to ChatGPT or Claude or any of the others. It's all done through MindStudio. So you do it once. MindStudio will then give you the choice, allow you to choose which LLM you specifically want. And it's good to do some research when you're developing in MindStudio, to do some research before you do your developments, primarily because there are tools that are LLMs that are better at certain things than others. So you keep that in mind as you're moving on. Also, I believe in an agnostic environment with the company I'm working with at the moment in education. What you don't want is an LLM that has a bias towards one direction or another. And if that's the case, then we need to somehow get away from that bias. And the only way is to change LLM. With MindStudio, because it's LLM agnostic, it allows me to choose at a whim, really, which one I'm using on a given day. We had an issue a couple of weeks ago where Claude was unstable for a bit. There was an issue with using Claude Haiku in one of the applications that we had written. So all we had to do was switch over to, I think we switched over to Gemini and got Gemini working on it instead of Claude. So it's very easy to manage in that respect. As far as managing your accounts, you can easily see the usage here. So it'll tell you how much you're spending over a certain period of time. It'll tell you what applications are using all your money. You can go down to user level. So again, you can look at users and see what they're spending as far as that's concerned. Models. So we can look at it. At the moment, I only use Claude Haiku primarily because it's the cheapest model to run in MindStudio, and it's good for setting up demonstrations, etc. It's a good all-round tool to look at. So it gives you a fairly good range of options as far as checking up your usage is concerned. You can build different workspaces. So for me, with different clients, I will have a workspace per client. We're working in the OmniFocus workspace specifically, but I have one for each of the clients, and I can get those clients just to see those specific workspaces as well. So once you've created the workspace, you can then add users into that workspace. Again, it gives you a good view of the billing. And then for the developer side of things, MindStudio, as far as I look at it, it's a back-end tool. much like your databases, etc. And with MindStudio, you're creating these applications. The front end of MindStudio isn't brilliant. It gives you a certain amount of leeway as far as showing fields and showing your results, but it's not. It doesn't look great. And so what we need to do is we usually stick a UI development in front, looking after the UI side of things. And so MindStudio have a very good API, easy to use. They got good documentation behind it to set the whole thing up. And it's got the log side of things has helped me numerous times. It'll log all the API requests and tell me what's happening at a certain time as well. So that's the sort of admin side of things. Documentation, by the way, again, it's full documentation. They have a good support. The support is there. The majority of the time, when I've had issues, I've been able to pick someone up, certainly in the UK times as well as the US times. So on a Euro, I think it's supported. There's one or two people who support it in Europe. Right, talked enough about that. Let's jump into the actual coding area. There's two parts to the coding. There's one is the drafts. This is everything that you're currently working on, and there's one that's published. So once we've published it, it can then be viewed either publicly if you select so, and everyone can see it, or only to the people that you've allowed access to that environment. Let's jump into the drafts area, and I will just click on the create new agent for the moment. So in here, this is your development area. This is where you're going to create the AI interface, the AI backend. There's several aspects to this. First of all, as you can see, there's a big screen in the middle that has a couple of blocks that I can move around and tidy up. And I have a choice of blocks, and I'll go through these in a minute, but I got a choice of blocks here that I can choose and put in place and do connections to them. So I can I can quickly build a workflow from scratch. Sorry. Okay. As you can see, and then take that out to the end. So very easily, I can take a function from such as these blocks. So here we got generate text, generate image. If I click on the view all blocks, there is again a plethora of blocks that you can use to generate different things. You can generate videos on here by giving it a prompt, charts, etc. We do text to speech. This is one that we've been using recently, is to scrape URL content. So we'll give it a URL and we can scrape the content of that page. And then we can ask AI to do some changes, not changes to it, some summarization of what that page is all about, etc. Different things to manage the flow. So we have some logic tools here. So we can do an if this then that sort of approach. Checkpoints. So we can set checkpoints within the workflow where we want, let's say we need the user to actually say that they've done something, and we can put those checkpoints in, or have checkpoints ask them certain questions as we move through a course, for example. We can display different types of content menu. We can jump around to different parts of the application as well. Links to social media, links to Google. As you can see, there's a whole host of these things that you can play around with, plug in. I spoke about Zapier earlier on, is the Zapier webhook. So here I can now start connecting Zapier to maybe Word or a Word document, pull that information out of the Word document and then put it into through AI to do some summarization or to add a piece to it. We use a Zapier to help us do the plagiarism tool in our plagiarism tool for us to manage documents and put them in places. Drop out of that a minute. Looking at on the left-hand side, we have the top level, and in here we can define exactly what the application is, so we can change its name, and this will then be carried through into how it saves and how the API will call it. It will identify it by its agent name. We can give it a short description. We can also give it an API function name. This is when we're using the NPM packages and things on the front end. We can also give it an icon, and this is the agent ID that we would use if we write an API and we wanted it to link to this specific agent. Again, we have a landing page. This is just to put information about the application itself. This will be the display name that will pop up as we log on to the system. Access, I mentioned earlier on that we could have, once you've published a piece of code or an application, an agent, you can choose whether you want it enabled or disabled. If you enable it, it allows everyone to be able to access that or certainly have a look at it. What I tend to do is keep that disabled, and then that allows me just to decide who I want to be using this. Remixing allows people to take a copy of it. So if you've been onto my website and read the latest blog on there, it was all about using AI, about using MindStudio, and in there I've allowed you to have access to some of the code that I've written, and that was because I've set the enable button. For each of the applications, you can set limits. So you can set dollar limits. I usually set it to around about $5 because it's so little that it's used each time. It obviously depends on the number of people using it and the frequency they're using it. So you can have it as high as you want or as low as you want. But I usually set a $5 limit just to keep a track on things, to make sure that I can see what's happening as well. Okay, you can use signed URLs. This is a new feature that they've just brought out. It came out on the weekend, so I haven't actually played around with this just yet. There's the API elements, so we can actually build the API here. So we can get an API key, and if we want to, we can get that created just by using the button. We can select which API we want to use, and then it will go through and show us the information that agent is requesting as far as the parameters are concerned. So as far as this API productivity genie, all it wants is a user question, and then I could run that API. So that allows you to test APIs without having to put front-end systems onto them. You can check what's being returned. As well, you can go back and forth to the logs, as I mentioned earlier on. Finally, down here, one of the last sections is the startup. Well, when you start an application, you may want the user to enter their name or enter the company name. etc. So in this one, it's the onboarding side. So I can hit the plus button, and there it will allow me to add an input value, a field value, and I can go away and create that. And again, very similar to any other tool, you can select what type of field you want it to be.
Quick question that's from
Yeah.
Antonio. He's asking, if you publish an agent for public use, is it possible to set it up so that people have to spend their own credits to use it? Or can it only use your credits?
It will only use your credits.
Okay.
And what I do is I will put a subscription. You could think of a subscription model as far as that's concerned, so that you can get people to subscribe in that area. But unfortunately, you can't do that unless you broke it down into, you could create a number of workspaces, and each workspace will then have a separate billing. That way you can actually charge that person, but still that the initial charge will come to you, and you would then have to pass that
Yeah,
cost
pass it on. And in the
to the
context
person.
of OmniFocus, I don't imagine you'd probably be using your own agent anyway, because it would be customized
Yeah,
to your usage. So, yep.
yeah. So let's have a go at creating something. So what I want to do first, I'll go into the main screen. Let's delete that. Along here, the automations is this workflow that we can see. The other piece that you need to be aware of is what's called the system prompt. So for every application that you create, there is a master prompt. And basically that gives the context and the feeling, I suppose, the character of your AI. So you describe everything that you need to in the system prompt. So you could say that you are a genius in OmniFocus. You know everything about it. You're excellent in doing presentations and writing scripts. So you start to identify what the AI can and can't do, and then you will break it down into, this is what you can. This is how you present. This is how you do the analysis, and you'll have each section there. The one nice thing that OmniFocus has done over the past few months is introduce more generation capability. And down the bottom here, we have two distinct things. We have one to generate a workflow, one to generate a prompt. If I click on generate prompt, it will go, I could type in a couple of words at the top here. So I could say I want to do a project breakdown tool. And it will go away and it would create a prompt specifically for what I've put in there. And you will have a nice long system prompt built for you there. What I'm going to do is click on the generate workflow. So this takes you into the generation screen. It also allows you to select, there are some examples here that you could use if you wanted to. What I'm going to do today is hope that it's still there. Yeah, there it is. So this is the prompt that I put in my blog that's on my web space at the moment. Okay, so I want to create an AI application that will ask the user to enter a brief project description. The AI will improve that description because it allows you to put any basic sort of statement in there. It could be really short. So what the AI will now do is actually look at what you've put in there and say, right, I can improve that. I can create a better description. And that description is then used to actually allow us to do all the breakdown. So here I want the AI to improve the description, and it will create a project title from that description, both in line with GTD recommendations. So I've told it already that I wanted to do an improvement to the title. I wanted to create a title, and I wanted to do everything in line with what GTD recommend. So now the AI is going to be thinking, well, how do I know about GTD? Well, I can let it go out onto the internet, but because I want it to be specific to OmniFocus, I will ask it to only or to access primarily data that I give it. So the next piece is the AI will then break down the project into its constituent actions using HTN. HTN is hierarchical task networking. It's a reasonably newish thing that's come out with AI, and it allows us to actually break down or do the work breakdown of a project much easier. It has an algorithm based around it. GTD and OmniFocus as guides. So what I've done, or what I will do, is I have a set of documentation that I've downloaded from the internet that tell me about HTN and the different algorithms. And so I've got several PDFs that we will use. GTD, I've got several documents off the internet, PDFs. And OmniFocus, I've got the OmniFocus guides that I've downloaded and some other documentation as well for the OmniFocus area. The AI will need 4 data sources in order to understand GTD, OmniFocus, hierarchical net actions, so it should be tasks network, and task paper. When the project has been broken down, the project and actions will need to be formatted as task paper, with each including an estimate in minutes and a tag saying AI derived. So I've basically put a load of documentation together to describe how I want task paper, and specifically how I want task paper for OmniFocus. I know Tim and I were talking just before you all came on, and Tim has gone through the same pain as me in that telling AI to do as task paper is quite an arduous process, because it does it initially and it'll forget to do brackets, and you tell it again and then it forgets to do the @ sign. You've just got to be patient sometimes with AI and start to understand how it thinks.
For those of you who aren't familiar with task paper, it's simply a way of expressing a project and actions and all its attributes like tags and defer dates using text. So if you've ever used Markdown, where you can do like headings and bullet lists and things, task paper is essentially the project task manager equivalent of that. So what Myke is going to show is how he can use this to generate the task paper, and then OmniFocus knows what to do with it. It's going to fill in the fields for you essentially.
Click on generate. And one of the things I've asked it there, and you can see it here, is that I don't want it to add a header or a footer. So AI has this tendency to add a bit of waffle to the start and end of reports. So I don't want, in this case, I don't want it to do that, because I want it to specifically produce task paper output for me that I can then copy and paste into OmniFocus. So at the moment it's going away and it's creating the design. It's thinking about, how do I answer what has been requested of me? So it's thinking about it. It's doing some analysis. It's doing some design in there as well. So it's usually around about a minute and a half of where it's just thinking about this, and it's going to come back and then give me the full design of what it's going to do, how it's going to do it, and I have at that point a decision to make as to whether I want to continue with it or not. So this is what it's come up with. It's looked at that prompt that I gave it, and it said, "That's okay, no problem at all. This is I've taken your system prompt. These are the workflow steps. So there's a start. I need a user input. I need to generate some text. Remember, I asked it to create a new title, and then it's got to do the breakdown. So it's got to query the data sources as well. Those 4 data sources for GTD, OmniFocus, HTN, and task paper. And then I finally wanted to generate the text in task paper format. Okay. It just goes through a description of exactly what it's decided to do, and this is how it's going to look. So when it's finished, I'm going to have a workflow that's going to be looking like this. So I'm happy with that. I'll click accept. And what it will do now, it's going away and actually building that in the background. This one doesn't require it, but if there is a need, it can create JavaScript functions, and it'll go away and create JavaScript functions for certain tasks that we can't necessarily do within MindStudio, but it'll jump out and actually create those for us and list a load of functions. So let me just jump into this piece. I'll get rid of this screen. All this is telling me is that it's done the task. It's done what it said it would set out to do. So let's bring that back so you can see the actual model itself. So here is the model. You can see that it's created all the different functions that it said it would do. Over here, there are no JavaScript functions. It didn't need to create those, but if it had, we'd have seen them down here. If you at all want to create JavaScript function, you just press the plus button, and you can go and click the generate. So if I click on generate, I can describe what my function, what the function needs to do. Once I've described what I want it to do, I can click generate, and it will go away and create that function for me. If I define what the parameters are for being input and the output parameters, it'll define those as well for me. So again, another useful utility that you can make good use of. I've used it before to do formatting of documents. So I use the function side of things to actually create a formatted document in HTML. And then I convert the HTML into Markdown. So in this case, we don't need the function. It has identified that we need an input. The inputs from the last time we played it. It knows that we need a project description. I told it that the user needs to enter a description. So that's it in there. And finally, it's created the flow. Let me just show you the system prompt. So it's gone and created all of this from that statement that I put in. So it's given examples of how we are expecting the output to be like. It gives here's the tone and approach. So I'm setting up the character of how I want it. I mean, you could have it comical if you wanted to, and the output then would all be in a comical format. You can have it as serious as you want. I'm working on a empathy engine at the moment for us to use in little checkbots, so that it can understand how the person is feeling, and the chatbot will then change to try and emphasize and have empathy with the person who's who's typing the information. So this is where you do all that and set the thing up in there. You can go in if you want to and change any of the settings, add the settings in there, that something very specific that you wanted it to do. Like I've already said that I wanted it to create a tag. You could tell it in there that you wanted to create another tag as well. So, and this will be used as the primary go-to prompt throughout the model. I'm going to jump back into the automation. So zoom in a bit. Right, what we're doing first of all, the first piece is that we're doing asking the user to enter the description. Then we're going to get AI to expand on this description. So we're going to take the description that we've just entered, and here's the value we've just entered in project description. And it will go away and it will create a much better version of that. And once it's done that, it would save it to a variable, and the variable name is expanded description. So that's the piece we need to remember, because we'll be using that later on. At least the AI will be using it later on. We don't have to do very much at all. Excuse me, the next thing we need to do is based on that expanded description. If you remember, I said I wanted a project title to improve this. So here it's looking at the expanded description that we've just had it create, and it's now creating the project title, and it's saving it in project title. What you might have known, anyone keen, will have noticed that we have a couple of errors up here. And if I click on those, over here, it'll actually tell me what the errors are. So everything in red is an error and needs to be sorted. Everything in yellow triangle is a warning, and we can live with it. So the first thing that we've identified here is there's something wrong with one of the data sources. So if I click on there, it tells me there's something wrong with the GTD methodology data source. I look at that and immediately I can see that there is no data source selected. And if I do a drop down, there are no data sources. So if I go over to Explorer, in Explorer, I can now start creating these data sources. So the first one was on OmniFocus. I have a set of files. Where did I put them now? Desktop. And here's these. Now, in my version, I actually do upload copies of books I have purchased. I obviously haven't put them here because you may not have purchased those books. I will use the PDFs within MindStudio if I've actually purchased the documentation. So at the moment, I'm just giving it the bare bones. These are things that you can pick up off the internet at the moment. So it's loading up the APIs text, and it's loading up the OmniFocus 4 reference manual that's produced. So I'll do exactly the same for the others. So I have one for task paper. So again, I've got those. Now, the one thing about creating data sources is that it allows you to have sort of private contents. What I mean by that is that with the company I'm working for, with the company I'm working for at the moment, we have a couple of bots that are creating, I don't know, we have a couple of bots that are allowing the users to do searches to much as you do with any other chat bot. But what we don't want is for any of the information that they are. I don't know why that didn't work. Upload. That's because I've already loaded it. Sorry about that. Yeah, the one thing about data sources is that you can use them as private protected environments. So all the information in there, every time someone goes on the chat bot, I don't allow it to go out to an LLM. I force it to just look at what's in the data source. So I've downloaded all the company's documentation into the data source, and they can do a search against that data source. And at no point will I allow the chat bot to go out external to an LLM and start sharing that information out there. So it allows us a bit of security as far as the users are concerned. GD, get that loaded up as well. And again, the same with this one. I've got quite a few books on GTD, which I have the PDFs for. So in my examples that I will show you, you'll see those. Just to get rid of these, we got GTD methodology. So if I now do a drop down, you can see them all. So I can start getting rid of those warnings. So OmniFocus, HTN, find the task paper. Now, this is all that needs to be done to this application. That these are the data sources that we've started to do searches on. Down here, I'm creating the task paper template. So it's going to go away and start looking at how it can create the breakdown structure. And finally, here I'm displaying it to the user. Okay, so this prompt and an explanation of all of this is in the blog that I set out, and I think Tim, you've got a link to it. So this is the application that we've just built ourselves. So let's put in my usual request. I always want to make a cup of coffee. I'll press go. And it's going to go away now and start working on that project for me. So much the same as you get with ChatGPT nowadays and DeepSeek and all those. It's telling you exactly what it's doing here. It's now generating the task paper. It's done its piece, and it's now creating that as an output in the form of task paper. So here it is. This is, remember I asked it not to put anything at the top or at the bottom. It hasn't done that. It's sort of squared it off and given us the task paper as is. So I can go away and I can take a copy of this and I could paste it straight into OmniFocus. You can go in, I'll show you in a minute. I have versions that do editing and all of this on there. But you could go in here and do some changes yourself. But that is the application created. So the only thing that really that we've done is that we've taken the prompt that I gave you, you've put that in, you've created the workflow. In the workflow, we've then created the data sources, and there were four of those with the documentation. Tim, I'll send you a zipped version of all the documentation as well, so you can go away and use that yourselves if you want to. So that's the application. This is how it looks and how it runs as far as MindStudio is concerned. And as I said, it's not brilliant. I mean, it works though, and if it's just yourself, then maybe it's good enough. What I have done in this one is that I've created a front end for exactly the same thing. I've added a bit of functionality down the bottom because and in the future, this isn't working just yet. In the future, I may want to create a CSV or a Markdown document instead. I may want it to restrict the number of tasks. So you'll see in here if I type the same thing, make a copy, and I'll click on generate. So that's doing exactly the same thing, except this is the front end. This front end is now calling through the API, it's calling MindStudio. So MindStudio is doing exactly the same as we've just done with the piece that we've created. It's looking at the title. It's creating a better title and better description. It's then using that and going through all the documentation that I've provided. And this is running through the data source that's much larger. I've got a fair amount of information tucked in the data source. As I said, I've got several books on OmniFocus and GTD and all that, and so it's got that information in there. So
Did
in
you feed
here,
it your own OmniFocus database as well, so it knows which tags to
yes, I
use
do.
and things like that? Because that's a key part of this, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What I've done, it's not showing up here, but I'll show you in. I've got another one to show you in a minute, very quickly. But here's the output from that coffee statement. I asked it to make a cup of coffee, so it's gone away and created a whole host of tasks. It's even decided at the end that I need to tidy up as well. So I can copy this to clipboard, or in this case, it's just a matter of clicking on there and it's copied the whole thing into OmniFocus. So I could, if I wanted to, have changed the task paper at its source on the document, or I could load it up here and then run through the whole output. So if I drop these down, you'll see that there are. That's why I've put that limiter on the number of subtasks. So you may not want this number of making a cup of coffee this complex. It'd probably take me an hour or so. But it's done it for me. It's given me all the information that I need when you click on it. It'll then, sorry, where are we? Up here. Go down. It's put the notes inside. It's put all the information that I require. I can define if I wanted to put due dates on it. It was a project that I knew had a hard end date on it. I can set a due date. I'm working on one that will do look at dependencies and then work out when things actually need to be done based on an end date. So that there's lots of derivations of this that you can start looking at as well. But it's very easy for it to be imported into OmniFocus, and it's very quick.
I'll just add, you could go to edit and just say convert to project.
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
this could, I guess, even be fed in through, like using a shortcut or something. So it's putting it in the right folder in project and things like that too, for to add kind of another level to what you're doing in
Mm-hmm.
MindStudio.
Yeah, I've thought about shortcuts and using some Apple script and all. I've started to work on adding a function, some sort of function within OmniFocus, probably an Omni JavaScript function to actually call the application. Um, that's
That's
my next task.
one of the best ways to approach automation is to get the basics working, and then you can always
Yeah,
layer on top of it and add conveniences and things. There's one question from Antonio. He says, in terms of the end result, what sort of things can you do in MindStudio that are either harder or impossible to do in, say, ChatGPT, Perplexity, or model running on local? So where does MindStudio really shine with all this?
the main thing about MindStudio is that it's got that flexibility with that application that we just built. We could have decided that one of the features is going to use Claude Haiku, and the next feature is going to use ChatGPT because ChatGPT is better. We have flexibility. So when you're using ChatGPT, you're stuck with ChatGPT to do that end-to-end piece. And I don't know if any of you had tried, but if you ask ChatGPT to do some coding for you, it's very good. It will bring back some code, but it doesn't bring back the correct code. And when you ask it to correct it, it'll do the correction, but it'll get something else wrong. And you're in this cycle all the time with ChatGPT. Now, when I go to Claude 3.5 of this, it will then, it's much better at coding. And within MindStudio, you have that flexibility. If I wanted to write a document, then I'll use ChatGPT. But if I wanted to write something technical while coding, I will then turn to a different model as well. And here, just click that button. As you can see, I use Haiku all the time, but because it's cheaper to run. What you have got are these evaluation and profilers. So what I could do is run the same prompt with Haiku and then select a different LLM, run the same prompt, and then it'll do a comparison between the two. So I haven't done that with this at the moment. I just run it on Haiku just because of the ease of expense, etc. Let me just jump into here. What I'm going to show you is, if I click on here, these are all the different models that you have within our MindStudio. Literally, there are, I don't know how many there are. There was 35 a couple of months ago. There's far more than that now. So you can go through and each one will be better than the other at different things. There are some in there are great at imaging. And at the moment, ChatGPT seems to be coming out on top of a lot of the work that I'm doing. But then when you come down to Llama, excellent at anything to do with maths or anything to do with any calculus or anything like that you want to deal with. So each one is better than the other at certain types of things, but you've got that complete flexibility to play around with it.
And that's something that comes with experience, I guess. Is it just kind of experimenting with the different LLMs and just noticing?
It's experimenting, but also look out. There are a lot of sites that will give you this information.
Okay.
They'll do all the graphics about the latest models and how good they are in maths or creating images, etc.
This could be taken beyond OmniFocus too. So if you also wanted a Google Doc to take notes on the project or something like that, that's where you could bring in other applications and services and things into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all.
If someone, I imagine, especially people new to AI, this could be a little overwhelming to see all these options and so forth. What would you suggest in terms of kind of a gentle way of easing into using
The
MindStudio without,
Mind,
if you didn't even know what an API was or something like that. There's some kind of pre-built things
MindStudio
that, yeah.
have an excellent, I mean, really excellent stock of videos out on YouTube. So if you go onto YouTube and just do a search for MindStudio, if you want MindStudio tutorial, there must be around about a dozen tutorials now that they've created for uh, people just starting out with MindStudio, taking you through the basics and working your way through those. Those are about an hour long, but they take you through the very basics at the very start and take you through building an application and how to distribute the application at the end of them. So they are very, very good. And they also do shorter videos on very specific content as well.
And is this English only for now? We've got people speaking a wide variety of languages. Could, if
No,
somebody spoke French or German or Spanish or something, could
it's
they?
it supports a fair number of languages. I'm
Mhm.
not sure how many at present, but they're increasing that on a daily basis. There was another one. I do have a chat bot, an API chat. Sorry, a productivity chatbot. I got it here, but this is the API version, and it allows you to ask the chatbot virtually anything that you wanted to, and it'll come back with a response as far as that's concerned.
If you were to feed it your OmniFocus database, could you ask it questions about
Yeah,
like what's coming down the pike and what are some projects that have been been sort of on the back burner for a while? Could you query it with those sorts of things?
yes, you can. Yeah, so
Yeah,
as long as you got, I mean, as long as you got data
right.
in whatever format, and as long as you can download it, you've got that information, or you can access it, then you can start using it to do analysis of all that data and come up with reports, um, graphs, etc.
And if you were exporting from OmniFocus, would you recommend, like, let's say you were exporting your entire database, would that be task paper or could you use something like CSV? What would be the
It would
most sort of
probably
interpretable format?
CSV would
Hmm.
probably be the best. It can interpret anything. As you saw, I was using PDF. It'll use Microsoft Word documents, CSV files, Markdown files, um, anything at all text. As long as it's got it's text, it's a text-based document. You can actually load that information up into it. You can you are able to do much like Chat GPT does. You can load images up into MindStudio, and it can then look at that image, and you can ask it anything you want about that image, and it'll tell you what it contains and what it's doing, and all these wonderful things. So there's, as I said, there are dozens of functions that you can add in those blocks. There's lots of different things that you can play around with. And text to voice, for example, we've been using that to be able to run avatars. So we do the text to voice, we create a script, we do text to voice. Then we use that voice then and we run it through an external uh, piece of code, and then that creates an avatar for us that's speaking the words that we've just created within MindStudio. So there's a lot of things that you can do and play around with and make it easier for people to use in themselves.
Yeah, okay, very cool. So the sky's the limit, but once you've fed it the data, then you can do a lot with that data.
That's right. Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
say generate an image that represents this project that I'm working on or something like that. That could be kind
Yeah.
of
Very
fun to,
much so.
yeah.
I mean, more so now. A couple of months ago, it wasn't the case, but things are advancing so rapidly at the moment. You've got ChatGPT. I think went a storm. Everyone was trying it out a couple of weeks ago, where they had this image generation or image manipulation. And you could load up an image and it would manipulate it to whatever you said. So imaging has progressed leaps and bounds. Video is following on rapidly behind it to a degree where you can watch it, and it's starting to get difficult to identify whether it was really done by AI or whether it was real. And I think the next over the next 6 to 12 months, we will see a move into what they call AGI, which is artificial generated intelligence, which is where AI will start to be able to think for itself and start to learn things and pick things up without us having to input. So that's the next stage that certainly OpenAI and Google are looking into. So yeah, the area is progressing rapidly.
And Ned was asking, I think you've answered this to some extent. What's the best reference for which model does what? Is it really just going outside of MindStudio and looking for some good articles, or?
In the documentation MindStudio produced, they actually do a comparison with as many of the main models, so you'll be able to go in there and pick that up. There is a site, and I cannot remember what it is at the moment, but there's a site out there that actually does a breakdown of everything. If I had it, I would tell you, but it's eluding me at the moment. But certainly MindStudio does it within their documentation. There is a breakdown of all of the LLMs, and they tell you where it's good and where it's not so good. But you've also got that profiling piece in there as well, which is it's not just limited to two. You could have 3 or 4 running on different LLMs. So you could write a prompt and run it under 4 different LLMs, press the button, and if you're looking for speed, then you look for the one that's finishes first, or if you're looking for content quality, then you could compare the document or the output that it produces. So you can do a lot of things within MindStudio to help you develop that application and make that application better, cost effective, etc.
Yeah. Okay, fascinating. And I imagine at some point MindStudio might even suggest which model to use in prioritizing cost and speed and effectiveness and things like that. So
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to really thank you for joining us here today and sharing many years of knowledge and wisdom. And even if you're not going to dive right into this right away, it'll give you a peek at what's coming in the future. And we'll definitely be covering AI in more detail on Learn OmniFocus. So stay tuned for more AI related content, because I think there is a genuine benefit to this, and there is some learning curve, and I imagine the learning curve will continue to diminish as time goes on.
Yeah. I bet it's something you can't hide away from nowadays. Unfortunately, it's everywhere. You turn the television on, it's there 24 hours a day. In the office, everyone's talking about it. My wife cooks using ChatGPT. She tells ChatGPT what's in the fridge, and it tells her what you can cook. My meals are dependent on ChatGPT now. But if anyone's got any questions or whatever, I'm happy to answer them. Send me an email.
There was one from Walter. It's a bit beyond the scope of what we're covering today, but if you wanted to, I'll throw this in at the end here. If you wanted to create an app that listened to patient encounters and used a medical speech to text app selected by me and then handed to a medical LLM selected by me as well for document processing, is that possible with MindStudio?
Yes, it is. yeah, it's something that we are looking into at the moment. The company that I have, Quantum Minds, we have a couple of different groups, and one of the groups is looking at something very, very similar, where we have we're building a medical database, and so we're getting a lot of information together and pushing that. Much as you saw that we were using RAG here, but in a much bigger format. And we're starting to use speech to text. So you can talk to it about any medical issue. It will then go away and come back with that information. So MindStudio is capable of doing it. The one thing I would say, and I say this when I run our courses as well, is that don't think that you can do everything in one foul swoop. You can't write a prompt to do everything. When you start using MindStudio, you will very, very quickly learn that you have to break things down into smaller prompts. One prompt will then lead you on to the next prompt and then the next prompt. And it's understanding that at the very start that will get you a better result at the very end. Because no matter how hard you try and give it that information in one big prompt, it's never perfect. So you need to stop. And I'm going to go back to my project management roots, and you've got to do some analysis and design before you actually start coding. It's very easy to think that I can just write a prompt quickly and it'll go ahead and do it. It'll do it. It'll give it a fair go, but it's not going to come back with the results you're expecting. So have a think about what you want to do and then how you want to do it.
Yeah, Walter's also asking, can you request that they add certain LLMs? I want a specific LLM for
Yeah.
medicine. Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And can this be run locally as well? Is there a component where the data doesn't leave your servers, or is the sort of web-based nature of MindStudio, does that kind of preclude that?
At the moment, it does, but they're looking on producing a local version so that we can run it on local. So you could have an LLM. I'm playing with local LLMs at the moment, so we've downloaded a couple onto our machines, and we're using MindStudio to access those and do all the work for us, which means we've got control over it. We've got the security side of things all tied in. But the only thing at the moment is that we're still working with a web-based tool. So at the moment we're in discussions with MindStudio about that.
But there's no way to host a MindStudio instance on your server currently?
No, I'll say no at the moment. I'm not 100% sure about having on-premise installations of MindStudio. You probably have to end up talking to them and paying thousands for it.
Yeah, and they're not that old a company either, and it sounds like they're moving at a very rapid pace. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll call it complete for today, and I really want to thank Myke for joining us today, and thanks to all of you who stuck around till the end, and yeah, I really look forward to hearing how you use this technology down the road.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, send me an email. Tell me what, or send Tim an email. It'd be useful just to see how people are using it. You can be very creative with it, and it's not limited by its functionality. It's limited by our creativity. So the more creative you can be, the better it will be. If it's got to do with data, if there is something that if you have a load of data you want to do something with, then look to MindStudio, because you should be able to do it with MindStudio, but always think about breaking it down into those little bits first.
Okay, well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. So take care, everybody, and I hope to see you again soon.